Everyone, welcome back. It's Roby One, and I want to get into this. And I'm back with the Uxbridge Crossroads to the Underground Railroad, thanks to Joshua Hyde Library, produced in March 12, 2019. And here's also the history book of Uxbridge, Mass. over here. Roby One! You! Yeah, we got that stuff, thanks to the Joshua Hyde Library. And look at this. Now, we've done a lot of videos on graveyards due to my graveyard tales on my video, and this is my channel, so I can give this. But see this and see this right there? To me, in my opinion, that looks like it was made after. That's just my personal opinion of that. That's my speculation on that. But we're going to continue this video, and it's a well presented video on this, and I'll even go closer so you can see it. See how it looks like it's done after? That's just my opinion, just because I've looked at graveyards for 5-6 years now. Here it is.
The death date is there, but her birth date is uncertain. There is a birth date on there, but we see some records where she might have died at about 88. There's some records she might have died at 93, and her actual death record says she died at 100. So we don't know her exact age when she died, but we know she was very old. Okay. So her headstone also says that she was born in Louisiana. We know from some other records that she probably was born in Maryland. So I think she might have told people she was from Louisiana, but we do know at one point she was in Louisiana after leaving Maryland. Okay. There was a note in a paper called Liberator, and the Liberator was a paper that was published by a gentleman by the name of William Lloyd Garrison, and this was the main anti-slavery newspaper. But this particular article is he is thanking Mrs. Nancy Adams from Uxbridge for a basket of excellent cake that she sent to him. She was known for her cakes. She had some pretty good cakes. And it's a nice little thing, like, so we're just getting glimpses of this person and what she was like and what she cared about. Now, the Almshouse Cemetery, where it is now, is not where it was originally. Originally, it was right where 146 was put through. And so in the 1990s, they took a look at the cemetery and they said this is a problem. Now, some of the early work on that, they thought initially it might have been a Native American cemetery. They took a look at that. There was one grave there which was identified as Native American. But the others it didn't look like. So they got in touch with Boston University. And Boston University sent out an archaeological team, and they did a study on this particular cemetery, and they actually took up the remains and took them to Boston University for a period of about 10 years. So you can see this is from the report that they did. This is with the layout of the cemetery. And if you look, there's a slide with Mrs. Adams. They can see a little issues with her health. She had a badly fractured hip, and it had been that way for a while, so it probably was not set or healed properly. They believe that she probably walked with a really severe limp. Her height was shortened by about 3 inches because of this injury that she had. There was something unfortunate that happened at Boston University. They had a break-in into the lab. And of the 32 individuals who were there, one skull was taken. As it turns out, it was Mrs. Nancy Adams. I've talked to them. I'm going to talk to them again. So when the road was finished, there was a ceremony at the Quaker Meeting House in Uxbridge for reburial. And the people that you see in those uniforms, these are descendants of Civil War veterans. They did an honor guard for the people who were being reburied from the Almshouse Cemetery. She had her original gravestone is actually not there now. It's in the Uxbridge Public Library. If you go up to the 3rd floor, you can see her original gravestone. But in the process of taking it up, there was a cleaning done, apparently with Clorox, and it did some damage to it. So the original has been put into the library, and there's a replica stone, which is now down at the Almshouse. In that cemetery, this is the only headstone in that cemetery. We don't know the names of any other person in that particular cemetery. So someone cared a lot about her and carved this beautiful headstone for her. The flag that was used in the honor guard is a flag from the Civil War. And if you see that young man holding the flag, this is Mr. Roy Henry, who's over here at the left. As we said, one of the graves was identified as a Native American. It was repatriated to the Nipmuc Nation, or to the Nipmuc tribes, I should say. There's different groups over there. There was another individual who was identified as probably partially Native American. They will be buried in the Alms House Cemetery. So the Alms House was a town farm, and I know some of my fellow selectmen are here today, so I want you to listen up. It used to be the job of the selectmen to go down to the Alms House and find out who had been drinking. I'm so glad we don't have to do that anymore, because I know it'd be these two guys over here. All right, so the remains of 31 Uxbridge residents were reinterred at the new cemetery. It's a beautiful place. You should go down and see it. There's a couple of dogwood trees that were planted. It's maintained by our local cemetery commission, and it's a lovely, lovely little grove. I would definitely recommend you take some time down there. The new headstone was placed in and dedicated, and until 2017, this was everything we knew about Mrs. Nancy Adams. And then a miracle happened. At the University of Michigan, in the Grimke Well papers, they discovered a letter, which was a letter dictated by Mrs. Nancy Adams. And she tells her story. So this is one of the really rare things we have from that time, which is someone telling their story in their own voice. So I have the letter with me. I'm going to read it out. It's a little bit long, and I apologize for my voice, but I think it's worth hearing what she had to say. So this is Uxbridge, March 30th, 1838. My dear friends, I received your very acceptable letter requesting me to give an account of my life, which I shall do as far as I am able. I was born in the eastern part of Maryland. I was married when I was about 17. About 3 years after that, my master was going to sell us to the Spaniards, but our mistress, to whom we belonged, did not want us to go, and told us to go away somewhere and stay until he got over the fit of selling us. And we went. I, my husband, and 2 children lived in the woods 5 months, with no food but acorns, and no shelter but a large tree, which had been blown up by the roots, which we cut out with our own hands. Our master had now given us up for dead, and said that he would let anyone that could find us have us for so much. And he thought the chance was small. As he thought the chance was small, he sold us for a small sum. But one man named Jesse Waters paid him the money for us, when my mistress said that we should be servants to no one unless we could be set at liberty when we had earned enough to pay the sum which this man promised to do. And he said he would give us a log house and 5 acres of land in 2 years. My boy was to stay with him until he was 22, and my girl until she was 18. And if we had any children while we were with him, they should be free. He found us in the woods and told us about it, and we were rejoiced to think that we should now have a home and a good master, and should soon be free. He was very kind to us during the time we stayed with him. As we had left our things behind and had nothing to furnish our house with, we worked nights for the neighbors and got considerable money and bought some things. But our master was not what we had thought of him, as we were soon to find. About this time, he went a journey several miles from home, and while he was gone, he sold us to the Negro traders without our knowing it. When he came home, he told my husband to take the team and go to Georgetown and get some goods for him. He went, and I have never seen him since. The same night, men came and bound me and my children with ropes and put us into a wagon, broke open our chest and took what money there was, which amounted to about $72, and divided it amongst themselves without giving me any part of it. And then they carried us to New Market. When we got there, we saw a great many colored people all in chains. Several of the women had no clothes on. We stayed in that place 2 or 3 weeks, and we were then taken away in the night and carried on board a vessel and put down in the hold where we stayed 3 days, and then stopped a short time, but sailed again to Baltimore, where we were put into a market house where we stayed 2 weeks. Then we started again there from a lumber wagon and traveled till we came to the Ohio, where we took a boat and changed from one boat to another until we came to Port Gibson. It was very slow traveling. My children were sick with the fever, and we saw many dead bodies along the way. When we came there, a gentleman came riding by along the water and came in on us. He said to me, "What can you do?" I said, "I can talk and eat and sleep. That's what I've been used to." "Well," said he, "you are the very one I want," and he took me and my 2 boys. I had buried my little girl in Mississippi, and sent us out into the country with the man who came with us. 2 or 3 days after he sent for us to come to his house, we went. He gave us to his oldest child, a small boy. He then sent me into the field to pick cotton. The first year I was not whipped at all, but after that I was treated as bad as was possible and lived. My allowance of food for myself and 2 children was 2 quarts of meal and 2 pounds of pork a week. And for clothing I had no gown in the summer and only a short one in the winter. The women were obliged to work as were the men in all kinds of business and at all times of the year. There were different overseers at the plantation, each of whom had $1,000 a year. Over time, my son, who was then about 19 years old, went with my master's son in a boat on the river. And they were afraid that he was practicing to run away. So he was taken and received 400 lashes, after which he was salted and peppered. I stayed there about 3 years. When being in feeble health, I hired myself out to a man who came to the north, and came to Norwich, where I got away, and hid in a nice house where I stayed 2 days until he left the place. I remained in Norwich 12 years. When hearing my master was coming after me, I came to this place, where I have remained ever since. I have thus far tried to give some account of myself, but I have not told half that I could tell. My eyes have seen what my tongue dares not speak. My health is now very poor. Has been through the winter, and I think I should hardly get up again. What I have told is the truth, and nothing but the truth.
Alright, now, you gotta be speculative about that. 400 lashes. I gotta talk about this for a quick second. You think anyone could handle 400 lashes? Now, I bet 50 lashes you'd be almost done. 400, they said they salt and peppered them. I'm very speculative of that. This documentary is very good. It's very informative. They're showing a lot of stuff, but I can't wait to see the original stone. There'll be a part 3. It's coming up soon.